And really, the Fit Guide is a merging of hospitality and fitness. We are of the belief that bringing hospitality into the fitness industry is going to really build it up.
We were talking about the fact that in hospitality, especially in hotels, restaurants and spas, and some other industries, there are established independent rating companies that go out there and do independent inspections. But we looked at it and we said that in your industry, fitness, there was nothing quite like that.
Looking back, it would have been a great time to start the podcast, but better late than never. And now is another really good opportunity, of course, to get out these stories and start these conversations about how we can improve, how we can be better, and how we can change people's lives. My name is Jack Thomas, and welcome to the 5-Star Fitness Podcast. Now, I am one of the co-founders of the Fit Guide, which is the global standard of excellence for the fitness industry. And this show is really about bringing the very best from hospitality into the fitness industry so we can build better, more profitable businesses and really build this industry up. I'm joined today by Matt Lavender, co-founder of the Fit Guide. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, Jack. Thank you.
And today is going to be the story of the Fit Guide. So just to give you some context into what we do and why we do it. And I think a good place to start, Matt, is how do we know each other?
Well, it goes back quite a few years now. We originally met in Bangkok here, where we are today, where I lived for many years and where you still live. And yeah, we were introduced by some friends, and I guess we became friends and now colleagues and co-owners of a business together. So yeah, that's how we met originally.
Yep. Yeah, I think it was about 13, 14 years
Something
ago
like
that we
that.
first met. And
Exactly.
this has been a great journey, the first few years of the Fit Guide. I think let's let the listeners and the viewers just understand a little bit more about us. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds, 1 minute timer. Just give us a little bit of background on what you do and how you got here.
Okay, so I think in a nutshell, people know me as a hotel inspector. That's sort of where I started off my career in hospitality, which is my main field. It goes back a little bit further than that. I was teaching at a university here in Thailand, doing hospitality management courses. But then from there, after inspecting hotels all over the world, I think I've done something like 700 restaurants, hotels and spas, moved more onto the operations side, worked for a company based in Bangkok. Then when I moved back to the UK, which was 12 years ago now, I started working for Forbes Travel Guide, who are obviously very well known in the hospitality industry as a leading ratings company for hospitality, a bit like Michelin art for restaurants, for fine dining. 5 years ago, around then, when the pandemic hit, that's when I actually left Forbes and started working for myself, built a company called Enlights, and I provide training and quality assurance services for the luxury hospitality industry. So in a nutshell, was that 60 seconds, Jack?
Something about that.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we made a minute. And it's really been a joy to learn from you on the hospitality side. And really, the Fit Guide is a merging of hospitality and fitness. We are of the belief that bringing hospitality into the fitness industry is going to really build it up. And it's been nice since we started this to hear other people really having that message resonate with them. So that's made it especially exciting. Okay, my turn. So first 20 years in Bristol, UK. I guess the second half of my life started when I was 21, came to Bangkok, Thailand, was traveling for a bit, was teaching English for a bit, and then started a clothing export business, which I ran for 7 years. Got in the fitness industry 14 years ago, and I've been through quite a journey in the fitness industry. I started off with as a coach, then as a fitness manager, so managing, hiring coaches, and then I left the gym I was working at to set up Base. So I've been running that gym, that facility for 9 years. We have 3 locations now, learned a lot through that journey. Started Fitness Business Asia podcast 6 years ago, and that's at 300 episodes. And that's allowed me to really learn from a lot of leaders within the fitness industry. So that's been awesome. And of course, the Fit Guide, which has been running for a few years. So is that 60 seconds? I think so.
About that?
I think I made a minute. You
did well.
So we're going to go through the story of the Fit Guide. And I want to go back to 2022. It was April, I think, 2022. The skies had just opened up, so people were finally allowed to fly internationally. And you were over here on a trip to Bangkok, being where you used to live, of course. Yeah, tell us about that initial conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it very well because, as you say, it was a strange time. I think it was the first time I'd been back to Thailand for quite a long time, and as you say, we were still sort of in the midst of the pandemic. You could start to come in and out. But I remember, as always, whenever I come to Bangkok, we always try and catch up and sort of see where we both are in our lives and where our careers are going, especially. I've always appreciated the fact that you were somebody I could talk to about, how my business was going, but somebody who was outside of the hospitality industry. So, you would have a different perspective. And I think likewise, I enjoyed seeing how you were progressing on your own journey. And I think from the way I remember it, and, memories can be fuzzy, but we were talking about the fact that in hospitality, especially in hotels, restaurants and spas, and some other industries, there are established independent rating companies that go out there and do independent inspections of these locations, and then they award star ratings or other ways of really appreciating excellence. But we looked at it and we said that in your industry, fitness, there was nothing quite like that. And that's kind of where the conversation started. I'll let you take over from there.
Yeah, so I remember you were telling me about what you did in hospitality, and I think you were showing me maybe a report or talking through some of the standards. And as someone in the fitness industry who was really almost obsessed with what was happening in the fitness industry, what the best brands were doing, I'd been to New York, I'd been to London and visited a lot of the top studios. And I was often kind of a little bit disappointed by the experience. And it would often be the service side, like the pre-class service, or maybe some things that the coach did, like arriving a little bit late or not planning their sessions. And so I really knew that, quite honestly, we needed to do better. Whilst there were some incredible brands doing some great things, overall we needed to do better. And I'd heard people within the fitness industry say, we have to learn from the best hotels, the Ritz-Carltons and the Michelin star restaurants. And so when you were talking about what you went through with hotels, I just thought the fitness industry needs something like this. And I think we almost half-jokingly said, okay, let's do something and go 50-50, and then finished our bottle of wine. And it was the next day that I think both of us were thinking, actually, this is a fantastic idea. And I really felt it was like a special idea and a special moment, just knowing there was nothing like this in the fitness industry. The fitness industry had come a long way in the last 20 years, and it was really ready for something which hotels have had for 70, 80 years, restaurants have had for over 100 years, hospitals, golf courses even have something like this, but the fitness industry didn't. So that was... it really made me realize we were onto something special there, I think. It could really, really change the fitness industry. So then we went on to like our R&D phase. Do you want to maybe start on that?
Just stepping back just for a moment. I mean, for me, it was extremely exciting because, I'd always been very interested in the evaluation process and the scoring system, the algorithms, and had seen how much hotels, restaurants benefit from having that feedback loop, from having independent people come out and really evaluate your business using a very strict criteria. But I knew that there wasn't really space anymore for that in the hotel and the restaurant industry. So when we really realized that there was nothing like that in the fitness industry, my sort of light bulbs went off in my mind, thinking, well, what a great opportunity to bring something that I love into that industry. But I think, going back to the R&D process, I think, we firstly recognized that what was important was to establish what those standards are that we would be looking for. So if we were visiting a premium gym, fitness studio, what would be the things that we'd want to look for? And I think that's when we started off sort of building out the standards. But of course, it wasn't just us, was it, Jack? It wasn't just us saying, look, these are our standards that we think. And I know, obviously, you're so well connected in the fitness industry. So you brought a lot of people in from your side to really beef it out and get feedback on those standards and see what the industry would like. And I did the same on the hospitality side as well. Yeah,
I remember the starting point was really sort of what you look for in hospitality and recognizing that we really should be doing a lot of these things. There was nothing crazy in there that was super difficult to do. It was things like using names, smiling, showing genuine interest. And I remember thinking a lot of those hospitality standards could really quite easily just be applied to the fitness industry. And I think it was about 7 or 8 months. We did over 100 test runs, of course. And I think it was really important that it wasn't just what we thought, but that we got other people involved in that process as well. So I visited friends' gyms anonymously, ranked and evaluated their process, and then went through the report with them. And it was really great to get their feedback. And we really changed it a lot based on what they thought the weighting should be, what they thought a great fitness experience should be. Of course, you asked friends in hospitality as well what they thought. And it really was a lot of people that came together in both hospitality and fitness to really pull it together. And I think it was about the end of 2022 that we had that first, or like year one, let's say, evaluation process. And then, of course, we started visiting clubs. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a new field for me. You know, I've always enjoyed fitness, but I hadn't had a lot of experience on the sort of boutique side and in the group class. So, you know, we started to identify some clubs and studios that we wanted to go out and test. We visited them. We went through our whole process. We assessed all the standards. We tweaked some, of course. You know, we realised that actually we wanted to add a little bit of this in or a little bit of that. I think one thing that really stood out for me right from the start was on the hospitality side. So many of those expectations, those fundamentals of great service, plus the things that sort of go above and beyond, the things that you would see at a five-star hotel. There was really no reason why we shouldn't be seeing those at the sort of premium end of the fitness market as well. I think great hospitality really can be applied to any environment where you're walking into a place that has that sort of guest facing or client facing aspect to it. So it was a fun process, right? I think I don't know if I'm going a little bit farther forward now, but you know, obviously we did all of those test runs. But the first time I think we really did it at scale was when we went to New York, wasn't it? You know, that was our first city that we launched, and you know, we went out there. There was a group of us, and you know, we really started to train the people who were going to be conducting these evaluations for us, but us go through the process as well. And there was still more fine-tuning, wasn't it? But we got to a point, I think, in New York where, okay, we're set now, and we knew what we were doing, and that was our first city.
Yeah, of course. So we did New York, and it was really fascinating as we were doing those and training people up, of course, within New York to do the evaluations, and just hearing their stories about what had happened, reading through the reports as they were coming in. And then, of course, we started training people up in London, Singapore, Dubai, Sydney, and just seeing the reports coming through, reading the reports. It just really gave this, for me being in the fitness industry, it was a fascinating insight into what was happening. And, you know, as a gym owner as well, I remember thinking just how incredibly useful this process would be for any gym owners to kind of see what we're doing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that you actually had me do a couple at your gym, for example, and had other people. And you said that you really learned a lot, and it's really helped to improve the service and the hospitality side of what you do. So that, for me, that was really encouraging, because it said, look, here is a product, here is a service that can really benefit the industry, and that, you know, when people take it seriously and they take those reports and really go through them and see everything that we've identified, both positive and areas for improvement, that there was some real value in it.
What was really interesting for me in those evaluations you did at my gym was that I thought certain things were being done every time, and it was really enlightening to see that wasn't happening, particularly around the sales process. And we're, of course, going to come onto that in other episodes, but that hasn't scored particularly well in the fitness industry. And there were certain things that I was sure were being done every time. And it was great to actually show the team. They were very receptive to it, actually. We went through the evaluation report. We kind of anonymized the names within the report, and we said, look, someone visited, they did a full evaluation, they're fully trained to do this is what happened. And it really sparked some good conversations within the team to kind of improve and really make sure it was done. So it was very useful for me, and again gave this insight into what the other studios would be seeing as well. So of course, first year we launched city by city. Maybe Matt, just tell us a little bit about how it was received by gyms, studio owners, managers. We had many conversations, of course.
Yeah, I think I think first of all there was a period where we had to really educate people as to what we were doing. As we've alluded to already, in the hospitality industry, hotels, restaurants, spas, it's the whole process of evaluation, or mystery shopping, as people would maybe traditionally call it. I don't particularly like that term, but there's a good understanding. So I think a lot of it was reaching out to the clubs, whether it be the owners or the managers of particular studios, and explaining that process. And I think once we had those conversations, once we started having them, once people grasped what we were trying to do, I think there was a lot of buy-in. You know, it wasn't easy at the start, I'll be honest, because I think, you know, we were trying to establish ourselves as a name, as an authority. You know, I think now we're at that stage, but initially, you know, people get all sorts of emails, hundreds of them often a day, and so getting past that barrier. But once we had those conversations, very few were not positive, I would say. Would you agree on the ones that you had as well? Yeah,
I think it was really heartening that some people who put up a bit of a defense first of all, and perhaps weren't 100% happy that someone had come in and told them that things weren't 100% as they should be, or areas they could improve at least. But once they actually saw the report, and especially once we actually had a conversation with them, we jumped on a call, and I think they really saw, A, that we cared and we wanted to make the industry better. B, that we were legit. Your background in hospitality is really difficult to argue with, and I, of course, have 14 years in fitness as well. And I think once we've gone through that process, almost everyone was on board. And some people that really weren't happy at all, we completely won them over, and they were sort of some of our biggest advocates since then.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, you have to have an understanding of the fact that, people have built these businesses. It's their heart and soul. It's their, it feels like their baby, right, in some cases. And so for somebody to come in independently and in some cases actually point out a lot of the things which weren't being done as well as they could, that's a difficult thing for a lot of people to take, and it depends. And so you would see different personality types maybe who would be more accepting or less accepting. But once I think people realize that our intention was not to criticize and to be like, you did not do this, more to say, look, have you thought about doing this? We thought that, maybe, this would have improved it. But, and not just based on our opinion, but based on the standards that we'd created and based on what we'd seen elsewhere, as you say, based on my background in hospitality. And so, yeah, once we got that message across, I really made me think, we're onto something here. This is a great thing that's really going to improve the industry.
Absolutely. So just to touch on our process a little bit, we have over 250 standards across the whole member journey, and that starts off with a telephone call, arriving at the club, the class experience after the club, digital and technology, the equipment, the studio, the public areas. It really goes very in depth into the member journey. So it's not a perspective from inside the fitness industry, but it's the average person on the street. And this is exactly how, of course, hotels are evaluated through Forbes Travel Guide. So after we'd visited those 5 cities, had a ton of incredible conversations, which gave us this extra layer of context, we then wanted to really get that data out to the fitness industry. And I'll touch on that a little bit. So we basically crunched the numbers. We had some of our team go through all of the data and really bring out the stats on what we'd seen in the fitness industry, what we were doing well, where we could improve. We put together some industry reports, which are still available. It, of course, is 2024 data, but still very, very useful for anyone to see. If you just go to thefitguide.com, you can subscribe and receive that report. And that was awesome. I got invited to a lot of podcasts. We, of course, spoke at a lot of events as well. And it was great to kind of get out that data, get out those stats, and really start some conversations within the fitness industry. Looking back, it would have been a great time to start the podcast, but better late than never. And now is another really good opportunity, of course, to get out these stories and start these conversations about how we can improve, how we can be better, and how we can change people's lives. Okay, fast forwarding to 2025, we're going into a year 2 now of evaluations, and we, of course, have visited New York. We've launched LA for the first time, and we're just about to launch Singapore, Sydney, Dubai, the other cities for the second year. We've launched New York for the second year now. Maybe talk about how that's been, kind of revisiting the city and some of the things that we've seen and experienced.
Yeah, I think New York's obviously a key city in terms of fitness. The industry is always changing, so I think we've seen some drop off the list, some come on. The different types of modalities that sort of have their waves, their better moments, and so going back there, I think what we found is, on the whole, it's been very encouraging in the fact that I think our process has stood up. The clubs that tended to do well consistently have continued to do so. Looking at the numbers, we've had a sort of similar number, I would say, in terms of our top award, 5 stars. I think one thing that we have noticed, and it's not necessarily so much of a change year on year, but there's still a lot of work to be done on the reception services side, right? So it's something that we've noticed, not just in New York, but every city that we've been to, that there are certain hospitality skills that are not being applied consistently. And I think really that's something that we want to work with the clubs to really help them with. There are some that are knocking it out of the park, to be honest. Some do it really, really well. I think the ones that have really strong standards and SOPs, standard operating procedures, it shines through. You can see the ones that are being trained. I don't know how far you want to go into it. I mean, we could talk about yoga, for example. We could talk about different modalities. But, what from your perspective, what have you seen in the data?
Yeah, I think to reiterate what you said, is reception services is really what lets a lot of clubs down. We're going to, of course, touch on this in future episodes, but just how important that first and last impression is. And I think it's always such a shame when the coach does a fantastic job, but before the class you get terrible service. After the class, they're just eating a packet of crisps on their phone. Absolutely no attempt to engage whatsoever. And it's just such a shame when some of the team have done a fantastic job and they just get let down by other areas of the fitness experience. Of course, LA scored fantastically well, and that was very interesting to see, and had some great conversations with clubs there. So now going into 2025, we've now visited 400 clubs, 150,000 data points. I think by the end of the year, it'll be 500 for sure. And we're just going to continue getting out those stats, getting out those data, which I think leads us nicely to what's next for the Fit Guide.
What's next? Well, first of all, we're going to continue launching new cities. We want to really cover every major city in the world that has a big fitness presence. And I think this is something you can talk on a little bit, but we really have a big push now on media as well, and getting out those stories. I think the first couple of years has been very much a case of collecting data. Now I think a key aspect of what we want to do, one of our pillars, is to make sure we're getting those stories out. I'll let you talk on that in just a moment, because you can probably go into a bit more detail. And I think also, another thing is education. That I think we're really keen to not just help the industry by providing data and information, but help them with real tangible services, such as our training modules, both online and in person as well. So, anything we can do to help the industry is something that we really want to do going forward.
Yeah, I think the media side is exciting, and the way I look at it is really telling the stories behind the world's best brands. We've visited, we've evaluated them, we have awards to recognize the very best, and now we want to tell the stories of the people behind those brands, who've created them, who run them day to day. And also, I think your background in hospitality is so useful for the fitness industry. We want to get more of that out as well. Your background, your expertise, you work with these absolute world-leading hotels. And I think, I'm excited to kind of get more stories out about that as well. And then, as you said, the education side, I think we don't just want to tell people the things they're not doing, but also how they can improve those as well. Of course, we've done workshops and the like with clubs around the world, with brands around the world, but the more accessible we can make that education, the more we think we can improve the fitness industry. Look, Matt, this has been awesome. I think it gives a little insight into what is the Fit Guide. Of course, we'll be back every other week sharing stories on the fitness industry, what we've seen, of course, your insights into hospitality as well. So if you enjoyed that, please do like this video. Please do subscribe. We do launch a weekly newsletter as well. So go to thefitguide.com. You can subscribe absolutely free, and we'll send you the very best of what's happening in the fitness industry every single week. See you next time.